Hey everyone, JRI Plays here. Welcome to my week 3 update for Guardian Games and how to get the platinum score for this week's Nightfall. This week we're actually going to be going over the Devil's Lair, which is a pretty easy one to get. It's not very long though, so it's a little bit harder to get higher scores, so you kind of do have to really prioritize as much as you can trying to beat your teammates to the champion so that you can actually get the finish with the emote going off and you get the finisher to count, because sometimes it's buggy. Another thing today is to look at. You'll see that sometimes I'll be getting a finisher on an enemy, or I'll start the finisher and then finish the enemy, and you kind of have to wait like an extra half second before you actually finish for it to actually trigger the insult to injury medal. So that's a little bit annoying. But this week it's Strand Surge with Void Surge, which is nice for the build that I normally use. I'm not going to be taking advantage of the overcharged linear fusion, but I am taking advantage of the overcharged weapons. So in this case I'm going to be getting additional damage with my Wish Ender. And so just to go over the build real fast, very similar build to what I normally use. Some of the changes are going to be Void Siphon to make sure that I'm getting the most orbs that I can while using my heavy machine gun as a primary. And Void Reserves, just to bump that up so that I'm having to kind of search for the bricks a little bit less. I do have bricks from beyond though, so that'll help myself and my teammates. Still using Volatile Flow, so picking up bricks and getting the Void Siphon orbs will also make a big difference. Having the counter weave going so that you get your abilities back, so you can spam your abilities and get everybody suspended in the air as well with Prismatic Transfer to help your teammates get a little bit more damage. I do have one Void Weapon Surge just in case, and I don't have any yellow mods to get rid of that, so when I do pick up an orb, I do have the little bit additional Void Weapon Surge for the orange bar enemies. And of course I always have Proximity Ward, so that way when I'm in there getting the finish, I can last a little bit longer and not die as often. Now the build itself, just to review, from the last few weeks it hasn't changed. It's still the Shackle Grenade with the Weaver's Call and the Mind Spinning Invocation. Eat your Shackle Grenade in order to get Weaver's Trance, and then from there any of your kills are going to suspend targets in that blast. Also, if you throw out your Arcane Needle and you spread your Corruption and your Unraveling rounds and your Unraveling on those enemies, they'll also have the same effect whenever they explode and whenever they blow up. They're going to suspend everything as well and spread Corruption and spread the Unraveling effect. Thread of Generation for grenades, Thread of Mind, so that way you get class ability energy back. This will actually get you your rift quite a bit, so you can almost always be in a rift, and you'll see in the boss area I'm almost always in a rift. Thread of Warding, that'll mean if you pick up an orb, you'll have that additional Woven Mail. That'll help you stay alive. I'm only running 70 Resilience, or Tier 7, because I have in my build the ability to get the additional 3 tiers, the additional 30 Resilience from picking up a orb. So while I have an orb, I'm actually extra tanky, because not only do I have 100 Resilience now, but I also have the orb, which will give me the Woven Mail. And then Thread of Fury, that'll allow me to damage targets with a Tangle to get melee energy back, so that way I can continue to throw out Arcane Needles. So rather than really blowing them up, if I do accidentally, that's fine, I'll still get the Threaded Blast, but I would rather throw it at the enemies and get the melee back if I'm conscious of it. So that's pretty much the build. From here I'm going to go through the actual encounter. I'll do the full run, so that way you can kind of see from beginning to end how I'm getting it done. And the scores are going to be always tight. It's always going to be just barely above the 175 mark for the runs that I did. I did 3 runs to get the weekly bounty done, and in all 3 runs it was a little difficult because I just couldn't count on my teammates to get a proper finish, and as well I couldn't really kind of get those long sprees because of the way that the enemies were grouped until the boss room. I really took advantage of getting the rampage in the boss room. That made a huge difference to make up the people not killing their champions appropriately and not getting the finisher after doing the emote. I had one run where somebody was just like running ahead and just specifically killing the champions for some reason, like it was actually helping us, and skipping all the ads and not getting any streaks or anything like that, so that was interesting. But if you have any additional questions, go ahead and drop those down below. Like I said, it'll be a shorter video today because it's just basically an update for the week 3. All the same principles from week 1 and week 2 apply as well, and the class is going to be very similar. So thanks very much guys for watching. Appreciate again all the new subscribers. You guys have a good week. Alright, so when we start off, this time we're going to actually stop and kill the ads. Normally when you're running Devil's Lair, you're going to be scooting past all the ads like this guy did here. He's an example of the person who was running ahead, just kind of killing stuff ahead of us instead of staying and making sure he's getting streaks. As you can see, I'm using my machine gun as my primary. I'm going to be doing my best to kind of keep up ammo on my machine gun so that I can always be getting the heavy sprees and the void sprees. I'll also get the strand sprees, getting some of the kills from the explosions, from the shack grenade type explosions that you get whenever you're doing the Weaver's Trance. And so once you clear out these 2 pockets of enemies on each side, you're going to either move up on the left where you see the partner up there on top, or you're going to run through the middle here. The reason I ran through the middle is because they were already killing the left ads, and I wanted to come over here and kill the few ads over here. You'll either get the captain with a few ads behind him, or you'll get a servitor, which will take a little bit longer. And so now I'm just making sure that we're not leaving any points on the table, and I'm running through here. So ideally what you want to do is you want to stop in this section and kill the champion. There's an overload champion right there. You want to wear him down and have somebody emote in front of him and then finish. If you notice that the people that are with you are actually running up and emoting, then try to help them get him low because they've already kind of gone into their emote. If not, you should be the one to get in there and emote so that you can signal, hey, you know, I'm emoting, I'm getting ready to do this. And you're going to want to make sure to get to finish just like I did there. And you see here I got insult to injury and finishing touches with that finish. The next section, there's a lot of ads bunched together, and so what I'll do is I'll try to take advantage of the thrall that are coming out of this doorway here, as well as the ads in the back. I didn't want to stay exposed for too long because I was getting pelted by that overload, and here I tried to make sure that I got in there and get that finish with insult to injury, but it just didn't give it to me, so that was kind of buggy because I hit my emote right away, and then I had to get in there and finish him. Obviously, he was getting ready to be shot down by my teammates, who were just not aware or not interested in getting points. Now from here, as you can see, I'm getting the heavy spree. I'm also getting the medals for having long streaks without dying, those like 30 kill streaks without dying. I'm starting to realize I should put unraveling rounds on these guys, that way if my enemies get kind of, or my teammates get really slow, they're going to not allow the overload to kill me. Basically, by dropping down, he'll still tick down a little bit and it'll counter his overload. I think there, the teammate got in there and stole the finish off of me, even though I was emoting and I didn't see him emote, so that probably cost us points there, so don't be that guy. This guy was kind of annoying me because he's just standing there and he could have hacked already the terminal, so I had to come back and hack the terminal. So just, you know, LFG things. From here, these doors are great choke points, but with the suspend I was noticing that sometimes the suspend would hit the enemies coming out of the door still, and it would keep them inside the black area that you couldn't shoot through, so that was a little bit annoying, so just be aware of that. But still be aggressive, especially if you're running with randoms, because you don't want them to get the kills on whatever, you know, weapons they're using, because if they're not interested in putting up streaks, then you're going to be the one to have to do that to make up the point differential for killing champions without actually finishing them with an emote, because again you're doubling your score by emoting. Here come the next set. And this is the wave, I believe, where you're going to watch out for snipers. And if you don't catch them coming out of these doors here, and there's a good example of stuff getting stuck in the door, but if you don't catch them coming out of the doors here, then you'll end up in a bad situation where you'll have snipers kind of camping in the very top areas, and when you're down there in the back by the train, you could actually get shot and killed. And I think that happened to me on this run, if I'm not mistaken, where I was back there clearing ads and picking up stuff, and then all of a sudden I get wrecked by the snipers. Oh, another thing to be cognizant of is using your super in groups of enemies. Try not to use your super on the bosses and the big enemies, because you want your super to kill multiple ads at the same time. That'll get you your Let There Be Light medal, which will also add additional points for you. And don't be afraid to use your Rift, because your Rift is going to just always be back. And that's one of the snipers, I believe, that I picked up there. Here comes the captain, same thing, so I put unraveling on the captain, And I'm waiting in front of him now while the unraveling is taking him down. Even though the teammates weren't really taking him down, the unraveling was doing a decent job of getting him there. And it also just happened to catch these invisible enemies, so I knew exactly where they were. Now in this next section, this is a good time, if you do have a super like I do, to use your super in this room, because everything is kind of packed tight together and they don't respond immediately when you come around the corner. They take a second to stand up and look at you, so it's a good time to get your super off and get some additional kills, and let there be light metal there. And here was another boss where I was able to get the insult to injury on, even though our teammate was just kind of standing there trying to steal the finish for whatever reason. Maybe he didn't know that our score is shared. There's this annoying barrier champ. I was trying to draw him out. And here I am ready to attack him. And then the teammate almost stole the points again. There's a bunch of enemies grouped up underneath us as well, not only on the left side, but here the Vandal, and then if you drop down, there's going to be a group of enemies below you with a champion. Usually an overload champion's kind of zipping around down there, so keep that in mind. Since these brigs were kind of being let run around, and the teammates weren't doing exactly a very good job of keeping them still, I was working them down, kind of stuck working them down. And here, I'm trying to get this overload ready without exposing myself to the brig too much, and our teammate just goes in there with his super like a moron and just nukes him. So, not much you can do there. This one here is a tough champion sometimes because all that crap is up there on the sides. I'm surprised that I was actually able to get this champion so easily, because on the other two runs that I was on, he was actually tough because the teammates weren't kind of picking up the clues or didn't really understand the assignment, and they were still sitting back and just picking at the barrier, and it wasn't getting killed quickly enough because then the snipers were forcing them to take cover. And so what I had to do in the final run is I had to let everybody else deal with the barrier and move up and kill all the enemies and get as big of a streak as I could try to get of the enemies that are perched around the edge of the tank, so like the snipers and the captain and the dregs that are back there. Thankfully though, they did get the tank down pretty fast on this run. Here's another great room to get a streak going, and then here's an easy champion to wait for. But as you can see here I'm waiting, and this guy just absolutely just nukes the captain. Does not get the insult to injury. Now in the final room, you're going to have two groups of enemies, so either you can try to snag both groups, or you can just pick one lane at the left or right lane and just go for it, and then just clean up anything that's left on the side. So that's kind of what I did, is I picked up the left lane, and then I hopped over to the right lane and tried to get my rampage going. And as you can see there, I got stick and move, and I got the heavy rampage, which is a long streak. The boss I would recommend leaving to the other two players, because the people like to do damage to the boss, and so what I would prioritize is getting off your super as much as you can, like I did there, got the Let There Be Light medal, and then preparing yourself for the doors to spew ads, and then also for the ads to jump down from the ship that comes in. You're going to have an enemy skiff fly in and drop, I think, 2 sets of ads. These are going to be exploders as well, so just be careful. As you can see, I'm racking up a ton of points, and I'm also able to tank pretty well any of the damage coming from the 3 smaller servers. Another great thing is that I don't need to have particularly any shield breaking items, because the bow does so much damage. The Wish Ender is boosted because of the overcharge weapon boost, since I am a Strand subclass, so it'll chew through most of the shields of any of the ads that come out of these doors, or any of the smaller servitors as well. And as you can see, my goal is again to just continue to mow through everything, keep up my Weaver's Trance so that I can stun everything that comes out so they don't get away from me. Try try to spread as much corruption and as much unraveling as I can. And then if you get into a situation where the boss gets like right on top of you, you can just change sides like I did there. Now, one thing that most of the groups didn't do, that if you're with a team that you can communicate with, you want to try to get another set of ads that most people don't get to come out, and that's like when the boss is in his final chunk. Most people get a little overexcited and they just kill the boss real fast, especially if we're pretty close to the threshold like we are here, and these guys just nuke the boss. But if you allow the boss to get slowly down to about half of that final bar, as you can see these ads spawning here, another wave of these ads are going to spawn. So you're going to get the final wave coming out the doors, you're going to get the final skiff, and then once you've killed the 2 waves from the doors and the 2 waves from the skiff, then you kill the boss, and you'll get all those additional points that I was not able to get on this run because they just nuked the boss. And see right here, we've already crossed the platinum, and we still technically have that additional spawn that we should have gotten, but the guys just got excited and they said, oh, we did it, and so they just nuked the boss. And that was fine with me, I guess. In the end, I still got all the loot that I needed to get for the week. I got my platinum. I was almost at 180, but it would have been closer to 200,000 if, you know, they'd cooperated with the finishes. And this guy didn't steal my finishes right here. So, anyways, that's pretty much how I did it this week with the final team that I'll be playing with for the Guardian games. I'm not going to run this anymore now that I'm done. I've already got my bounty done. And so if you guys have, again, additional questions, just leave me a comment down below. And thanks very much for watching. And again, I appreciate everybody and all your feedback. Enjoy the outro.